Thank you for joining me in my balcony here in the Himalayas. My name is Naama. I'm from Sarganit. I have an Instagram page and Ravelry and Facebook and all these things, YouTube channel. And I'm addicted to knitting and creating things with yarn. And I want to today show you this technique that I've just found. And I don't know if I'm the first. And if you know about somebody else who does this, please let me know. I'm sure I can still learn some things. But anyway, this technique is about weaving into the piece that you've already knitted. Okay, so actually what you do, you knit a plain piece, so it's perfect for beginners. Just a stockinette piece, one row knit, one row purl, and you open the column all the way down, and then you weave into the holes that were created. And this is really cool because, you know, weaving, finally, I always wanted to weave a little bit and to have some experience with it, and now is really a perfect time. Also got rid of some like stash that was just lying there, you know, like small balls of leftovers, and that's really great. And I really love the result. Look at this texture. It's really cool. Yeah, so this is a really good video also for beginners. Even if you don't have a lot of experience in knitting, you just need to know to knit and purl, which is really basic. And if you do have experience, I think that it's a really interesting technique. Also, you know, the stockinette stitch is really fast, really easy, and then you just go into the weaving, which is a kind of therapy, I must say. I was a bit afraid of going in with the needle and stuff and working, because I like to work with these needles, not the tapestry needle. But yeah, it's a really amazing therapy, and I'm really enjoying every minute that I'm doing it. Yeah, so it's great. And before we go, I just want to invite you to follow my adventures. My adventures with yarn, with fiber, my adventures here in the mountains, in the Himalayas, and Instagram and Ravelry. Yeah, let's just go to the video. See you! So here's a closer look of the scarf that I made. So actually what I've done, I took 2 stitches, this 2 stitches, 4 stitches, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2. Okay, and in between, I've knit 1 stitch and then I just opened the whole line. Okay, so all this is actually 1 stitch that I've opened and then I've weaved into it. And I also did it in 2 colors. I'm not really happy with this combination because I think that the gauge is a bit different. Okay, and this is what the edges look like. So at the end I weaved the yarn into, and then I just tied it. So actually you can make whatever you would like to make. You could make a blanket. And this is the wrong side. Very nice. Both sides are really beautiful. So you can actually make whatever. You can make a blanket, you can make a scarf, yeah, all these things, very simple. And you can decide what kind of combination of stitches you would like to have. Just keep in mind to have 1 extra stitch that you will open at the end. So what I've done here is 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, and 2. That means that it's 2 stitches and plus 4 for the knit stitches, that's 6. And then 1 in between, so that's 2 more, 1 here, 1 here, that's 8. So it means that it's a multiple of 8 plus the 2 on the other edge. Okay, so if you want to do exactly like me, just pick a multiple of 8 stitches and then add 2 to the final number. So I'm going to show how I did this project, and for the cast on you will need a crochet hook. You can actually, you need a crochet hook for the cast on and also for the binding off. So in crochet hook cast on, I'm just making a loop. And I'm going to create now a crochet chain with the amount of stitches that I would like to have. So I would like to make this swatch, let's say, I would like to make it actually a bit wider because it's gonna be also shorter, so it can be nice if it's kind of a squarey thing. So here I did 1, 2, and 3 repetitions of this 8 stitch thing. So I think I'm gonna do actually 4. That means that I'm gonna have in the final count 32, that's 4 times 8 plus 2, so that's 34. But actually for the cast on, I'm gonna cast on with a crochet hook. Okay, and you can see that this is quite wide, so it's not taking the space of 1 stitch, it's actually taking the space of 2 stitches. So actually for each repetition it's gonna be the 4 plus 2, which is 6, and then I'm gonna cast on 2 stitches for each of this. That means in total 10. All right, so it's gonna be 4 times 10, that's 40 plus 2. Okay, so it's 42 for those 34 stitches. So I'm starting to cast on with a crochet hook. And that's because later on when I'm gonna open the whole thing, I don't want to kind of mess up the cast on. So I'm just creating a chain of 42 stitches. And after I finish this chain, I take out the crochet hook and first stitch, I put this last stitch of the chain on my needle, gauge side needle. And now if I look at this chain, it has to look like this, so it's quite tidy. So there's this kind of braid in the front, and in the back, this kind of thing. And just like in provisional cast on, I'm going to go into these loops here. So actually I skipped the first one. So this is the first stitch and I'm gonna pick up the 2. And then I have this gap that I've decided to have. So I'm skipping. Now I'm gonna pick up the next stitch. I'm gonna skip one and pick up the next stitch from the next row. Okay, so that's the skip one. So actually, instead of taking from these 2 stitches, I'm taking only from 1, and that's creating a larger space for the weaving in to take in. And then I again pick up 4. You remember I'm doing this 2-4 pattern, so 4 which are close to each other. And then again, I skip one for the gap and pick one to create the gap of 2 stitches. And now 2 stitches. I'm picking up 2. And again, I skip one and I pick up from the next one. And then I pick up 4. I skip one, I pick one from the next, I pick up 2, skip one and pick one, pick up 4, skip one, pick one, pick up 2, skip one, pick one, pick up 4, skip one, pick one, and for the last I'm gonna pick up 2. And that's it. I have the stitches on the needle, and now I just start to knit plain stockinette. So you don't have to worry, because when you weave in, the edges don't become rounded. So that's really nice about it. So you can actually knit stockinette throughout the whole thing. So the first row is actually the wrong side row. So I'm gonna purl this whole row. So I go from the back to the front, pick up a stitch and purl. And next row I'm gonna knit, go from the front to the back, and knit, and I'm gonna repeat these 2 rows, 1 purl, 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit, until the desired length of the work, and finish with a purl row. There's another way to do this actually. You can create the gaps by working yarn overs, creating holes, but then it means that you'll have to be all the time focused on what's happening. It's a new, like when you're knitting, and like this is actually kind of a really, really quiet knitting. You're just knitting stockinette for the length of the work that you want. So that's really kind of nice and relaxing. So let's now do the whole thing, and then we can open up the columns that we need to. Okay, so continue until the desired length of the work that you'd like to have, and I'll meet you when you're done. See ya. So here's the result of what I've done, and you see it's like the edges are getting round and all this, and I'm not bothered because the weaving is gonna solve all that. But yeah, the weave has to be close to the edges, so maximum 2 stitches from the edges, not more than that, unless you want this effect of the edges rolling. Alright, so I've done my swatch, and I've knitted until the part that I want to, the length that I want. And also it will really increase the width of it. So let's measure how much. So right now I have something like 15 centimeters, which are 6 inches. Okay, this is what I have right now. And now let's get to the fun part. I'm gonna bind off again with a crochet hook. You can actually do it with 2 needles, but since you already took the crochet hook out of the storage, you can do it as well with it. And I'm gonna show later how to do it with the 2 needles. So I am knitting the first stitch. So I'm going into the first stitch like this, and I'm going into the second, and I have both of them on the needle, and then I can pass through both stitches. This is actually the stretchy bind off method, if you just translate it to the crochet hook. And for the next stitch, you remember that's a 2 stitch, these were 2 stitches, and the next stitch is going to be actually none. So I can actually drop this stitch, But then I have to compensate up here, and I'm gonna again make a chain of 2 stitches, 1 and 2. And now I go back, and 4 stitches should be bound off. So this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 3 and 4. And again, I skip 1 stitch, and instead I make a chain of 2 stitches. And you're gonna repeat that until the end of this row, and I'm just gonna show how to do it with the needle. So I have the other needle, and now I have again to bind off 2 stitches. So this is 1. So I knit into 1, and then I go like this from the to the left needle, and I knit 2 together through the back loop. And again, that's 2. I have 2 stitches on my needle, pass them to the left needle, and knit both together through the back loop. And now it's the time to skip 1. So I take it off the needle, and now I'm just gonna knit 2 through the back loop. So this is 1. And again, I'm gonna put the needle back, the stitch back on the left needle, and knit through the back loop. So this is how I can create the chain with my 2 needles and not with a crochet. And next one is 4. So this is 1, bind off, 2, 3, and 4. I take 1 stitch off the needle, and instead of it I make a chain of 2, 1 and 2. Okay, and you continue like this until the end of the row, and then bind off the last 2 stitches. Leave a nice tail and pull the yarn through. And now look, I'm left with these holes, and now I just start to open them all the way down. Okay, so actually it's enough to kind of stretch horizontally, horizontally. Yeah, I made it at the end, took some time. Okay, and like this all the way down. So I'm making sure that all the holes I made are, yeah, and the more the yarn itself is smooth and not really fibery, the fibers don't come outside, it's easier. Actually, I had quite a nightmare with a scarf because it's very fibery yarn and it got entangled all the time. I think it took me like a couple of hours to do it. But it's kind of cool, no? To kind of rip things off and know that it's part of the work. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna finish it by myself. You can also go ahead and do it, and let's meet when we're done. And here's the result of me taking out the stitches. So you see it's already getting more flat, and also I get these nice lines in between. I'm gonna weave into them, and for now I have actually 30% more after opening it. So it's about 23-24 centimeters, and yeah, around 9 inch. And now I'm gonna actually weave in. So that's the fun. I'm gonna use my yarn leftovers, and I'm gonna start. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take the yarn, pull it through Put it through the tapestry needle. And this is your choice here if you want to do double yarn or one yarn or whatever. The more thin it is, the more delicate the weaving would look. And you can also choose if you want to go with one color in each column, or if you want to combine all of these colors. And what I do here, I can go through this binding, cast on or bind off, doesn't matter. And then I'm gonna go underneath the first strand and over the next. So I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna just go underneath every second strand. So I'm gonna leave one and then put the needle through. Leave one, put the needle through. All the way up to the top. So yeah, if you have a scarf, a long project, a blanket, might take some time. But actually it looks much more irritating than it is. It's actually quite nice. It's very repetitive, very meditative process. And I think that the outcome is absolutely beautiful and it's worth this process. Actually, it's worth the process just for the sake of the process and not only the result. I think that's my opinion. I don't do things that I don't like to do anymore, which is really nice, I think. Okay, so you see, I've put it through the last strand and I can pull it through the other edge. You can take the yarn through or not, it's your decision. And I took it off the needle and now I'm starting to stretch this thing, and I'm gonna keep an edge on each side, okay? And for two reasons. One, later on we can actually make a nice thing of the edges. And secondly, I'm gonna also block this piece later on, and when you block it, it's gonna take a few centimeters from each side. So I'm gonna be generous also with the lengths of the tail that I keep. So that was the first weaving part, and now I'm gonna do the second one. So I'm gonna do it with the same yarn. You can decide if you want to combine a different kind of yarn, different color or not. I'm gonna go in. So this one, let's say it's kind of the twin. I'm gonna maybe do it 5 or 6 times on each of these columns. So I'm gonna go into the same bind off or it cast on, it doesn't matter which edge you're starting with. And you see here I went under the strand. This time I'm gonna go above it. So I'm actually gonna pick up, I'm gonna go under the other strands that I didn't go under. You see? So I'm actually going over the strand that I went underneath last time, and I go under the strand that I went over. Okay, so that's how I'm kind of alternating. And when you do it, try to also, you know, take the needle and really kind of make space so that it's nice and tidy. And it's quite visible to see where to go in. And if you have a Tunisian crochet hook or a nook, you can also do it with them so that it's like kind of, you have a longer needle. Though I don't really think it matters, it's just a matter of your comfort. I think that we're all different in that. And so I'm always sticking to one side, and I kind of make this other strand that I've just do like to stick to the edge. And then every column that I do afterwards, that I weave in afterwards, is gonna come underneath. until there's like no space, or it depends on you how much you like the space to be inside. And this is the last one, so I go over it, and again I go into the same loop I went through and pull the yarn through. I stretch it, make sure that the tail is in the same length like the other one, and I cut the yarn. And I'm gonna keep on like this. So this time, yeah, I'm gonna again pick up the color, and with the tapestry needle I'm gonna do the alternate to what I've just done before. So now I go into the second chain, and then if I went over in the last time, in the last column, I go now under this strand and over the next one. So I'm always alternating. So continue to work like this. And I'll meet you when I finish this, or maybe a few more, let's see. See you. So here's a brief update. I went so far into these 3 gaps of columns. Yeah, and I've decided to work with 1 color at a time, and it's 6 strands that I weaved in to each of these. Of course, it depends on the gauge of you've knitted it. It depends also in the thickness of the yarn that you're working with. Yeah, but just use your eyes and see what you like, and yeah. All right, so I'm gonna finish this and I'm gonna see you then. Et voila! What do you think? Isn't it gorgeous? I'm really kind of wow. It's also nicer even than the scarf because the wool is kind of more, yeah, stable. So you can actually see the weaving better, and it's beautiful. And it's a little bit kind of twisting if you put it up like this. So I'm gonna now block it. So that's really important to block it, and it's before I actually kind of make the knots in the side. So I am going to soak it in water now for like half an hour with nice smell, maybe some kind of perfumed water. And then I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna show you how exactly, because also this I want to stretch it out. So that's inquiring like different things, especially if you're making a scarf or something that is long. We really want to kind of spread this thing out. So I'll see you in a bit. I'm gonna soak it in water and come back for the blocking process. All right, and I've soaked it in water, and this is my blocking surface. It's yeah, you can stick things into it. It's a mattress. And this is the project, and it's wrapped inside this woven towel. And I don't squeeze the water out. I just straight away take it out of the water, maybe a little bit, kind of push it to the edges of the sink, and then I roll it in the towel, because I want it to be actually still wet while I do the whole process of blocking. Okay, so there it is. It's rolled inside. And actually this process of blocking is just kind of, you know, putting it in the shape it is. And also this process is if you're working with synthetic materials, it's not very efficient. So you have to work with the natural stuff. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna space these woven parts. Okay, so I'm gonna go with my finger on every stripe from the center outwards. I mean, this is a very short project, so doesn't really matter. I can just stretch it. But when I made the scarf, I had to go from the center and kind of do this thing, so that it's really stretching everything. Okay, so I go from one side. Okay, and it's taking more space from these open threads that I have. Okay, so from the center to one side, and then I can change the side and do it on the other. So it's a short project, this one, so it's not very, doesn't take a lot of time, but if you're actually making the scarf, it will be, can take more time. There we go, in this color. It's more tricky. Okay, that's it. And then I stretch it, and you can pin it, you can lay it down without pinning it, depends. Okay, in these kind of projects, which are kind of, yeah, there's no real reason to pin them down, really. But I am gonna put a few pins, just, you know, so I can put them down here in the corner. And yeah, I'm gonna stretch it up and pin it to the other corner so that it's kind of stretched nicely, and to the side and the other side. So it's a good idea to start again from the center outwards if you're doing a longer project. And I'm just gonna leave it like this. You know, if I'll put a pin here, it will just make a bump on the final project, so I'd rather not. There are also wires that you can do it with them. If you have them, do it. I don't have them, never had actually, and I'm quite, one day I will have those. You can also put maybe in every edge a pin so that it's still stretched. In every woven edge. Yeah, and let's let it dry and come back, talk about what we got out of it, although that's kind of the end. Alright, so it dried, and look, this is what it looks like, and it's really nice. I love it. Really in love with this, with the result of it as well. So now I just need to secure the ends, so you can either braid them. I will just make a basic knot. Of course, there are nicer ways to make your knots, but really, I'm not so much of a knot person. That's the first time actually. So I'm just gonna make a really basic knot in the edges. So if you like this video tutorial, give me thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram. Be great to hear from you and to see your projects. I promise to comment if you tag me in a photo of a project that you've done. It will really make me happy. Yeah, so have a great day, and hope to see you soon. Bye!